Welcome to Access a Trader, the #1 community for those who are committed to taking control of their trading in order to achieve success, profitability, and longevity. Thank you for joining us. Here's Dan Shapiro to help you find your edge, master your process, and own your future.
Hey guys, good evening everybody. Welcome to another edition of the AccessATrading.com Monday edition. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody had a pretty good trading day, and hopefully everybody is just doing okay. So let's talk about it, right? We always hear about the word dead zone, right? I don't care how long you've been trading for, whether it's a week or 30 years or somewhere in between. At some point you hear the word dead zone. Usually dead zone applies to the morning session. Once the morning session is over, there's an area usually between 12:30, 1 o'clock to around 3 o'clock. The market does absolutely nothing. But there is something called also a seasonal dead zone. And a seasonal dead zone usually is right before a holiday or a major, a turning point in the calendar for some, like a New Year's Eve, right? So we are couple of weeks away, I believe literally a couple of weeks away from Labor Day. I believe Labor Day falls on September 1st. I could be wrong. Probably I'm wrong. I could be wrong. So as everybody knows, this is literally the last, couple of weeks of summer. My kids officially start school, I believe, today's Monday. I believe they start on Wednesday or Thursday. And a lot of you guys probably the kids start exactly the same way if they haven't started so already. So a lot of people are still trying to catch that lightning in a bottle for vacation time for the summer before we find ourselves knee deep in 22 feet of snow, right? Especially here on the Northeast. And if you've been watching, if you've been actively participating in the market for the last, 3 or 4 sessions, you kind of know that we're still in a very, very good tape. You can find things pretty much most days. You'll get opportunities. But the one thing that I don't care what your process is that you've kind of have to agree with, market's been kind of doing nothing, right? If you look at the scoreboard today, literally flat. You had the Dow down 34 points. You had the S&P flat, and you had the NASDAQ up 6 points. Absolutely nothing. And you're just starting to see stocks like just drifting. It doesn't mean they're going to crash. It doesn't mean, anything. It just means that they're drifting. And what you look for is kind of what the broader picture is trying to say. Here's where you have to be a little bit more defensive in the next couple of days and, trade stock specific names versus the broader market. Like if you notice here, the QQQs, and this is going to be a good segment for something else, but if you notice, the QQQs are now 2 days below the 5-day moving average. If you've been watching this broadcast for a long time, you kind of know that the 5-day moving average represents short-term sentiment. Whoever has control of the 5 probably has control of short-term sentiment. So you can see here the Qs have been building now 2 days in a row below the 5-day moving average. And if you believe in the theory that stocks trade from supply to supply to demand, which I religiously talk about in the PS60 theory, that that demand comes after. And we're starting to build 2 days in a row. So it looks like a date with the 10-day moving average is in the cards. Okay. It doesn't mean there's going to be a massive destruction in stocks. It just means that the market's tired. We're just going through the motions. It's like, again, a couple that is married for 60 years. There's literally nothing for them to talk about anymore. And that's kind of what the market's doing. We're just going through the motions. You can see here 4 days in a row in the Qs of lower highs and lower lows, just kind of drifting and drifting and drifting. And if you look at the major names, especially in the NASDAQ 100, you'll see exactly the same thing here. You had Microsoft, right? You had Microsoft drifting. Actually gave a pivot today for all you guys that took that 1750 breakdown, traded out to 14. You can see it's getting weaker. You see Google after, a really, really big run, kind of running out of gas, going sideways. You have Apple after a really, really big run here is starting to put in 3 days in a row of lower highs. And if it loses the 5-day on the close, you'll get a little bit of weaker prices as well. NVIDIA probably does nothing, probably will go sideways till its earnings report in the next couple of days. So you got a pretty good understanding, right? You got a pretty good feel of what I'm talking about. The one stock that potentially could wake up in the next couple of days is Tesla. And let's talk about this right now. So, just to review, we had a nice break of the 50-day moving average, big run up for 4 days. Kind of came in now 3 days in a row, right? It's still below the 5-day moving average. In the last 3 days, has been rejected 3 days in a row on the 5-day moving average. The only difference between these previous 3 days to where we're seeing today was, well, today we saw the buyers come back in the options market, right? They were coming in today pretty aggressively for the 340s, 345s, and 350 weeklies. And they weren't just, $50, $100,000 bets. They were coming in with mid six-figure bets, right? Mid six-figure bets. The biggest one that I saw today was a buyer that came in for $930,000 premium for the 340 weeklies. As far as premium goes, maybe there were a little bit bigger buyers that I just didn't see. But as far as I saw, this was a short-term expiration, $1 million worth of equity. And the only difference between the last 3 days and today as well is this is the first green candle, which basically means it's a higher close than the open, right? So you have the option flow coming in, deep out of the money calls with short-term expiration, and this is the first green candle in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So here's kind of a play on Tesla, right? If Tesla can finally reclaim back the 5-day moving average, whether it's today, tomorrow, whatever, right? If Tesla can get back above the 5-day moving average, because everything else is kind of resting, and because Tesla didn't really participate for the majority of the year, you could have an entire money flow situation go back into Tesla. Again, we don't know if that's going to happen, but that's kind of what's shaping up right now. So you have 3 days in a row rejected off the 5-day moving average, and also big point of reference here. Today is the first day that the stock actually put in a higher low in the last 4 sessions. You can see here today's low was higher than Friday's close. So it's very, very important to understand that. What I'd like to see tomorrow happen on Tesla is get back above the 5-day moving average. And if it could confirm the last 3 days, right, the Thursday and Friday sessions as well, I think with enough option flow, it could get back to last week's highs of 350. So very, very important for Tesla tomorrow to, kind of get back on its ship to finally go. Because I think the distribution has been over, the digestion has been over. Looks like sellers were pretty comfortable today. You could see by let me get rid of this wick here. You could tell by the kind of the formation of the stock. It shot up and it just kind of grinded up the whole day, which basically tells me when you have less volatility, it means the sellers after the 3-4 day distribution, they're starting to get tired. And that's exactly what you want to see. So if Tesla can reclaim back the 5-day moving average in the next couple of days, I do think we start running back to previous days' highs, right? So very, very important. Lyft. Let's talk about Lyft. So Lyft, we talked about on Wednesday, the weekend update. Had a really big day on Friday. It rested today. Congratulations for all you guys who bought that dip into the rising 60-minute support this morning into that 1550s, 1560s area. It closed pretty much at the high of the day. Watch this thing above Friday's highs. If this thing could get back above Friday's highs, this thing could start moving higher. We did see a pretty good buyer come in on this thing for the September $18 call, so it's definitely noteworthy as well. AAL, right? Let's talk about AAL really quickly. So AAL, we started talking about on the weekend video, hasn't made the price action just yet, but we did see a pretty aggressive buyer come in for 8,000 of the December $16 calls, right? It's pretty good. That's exactly what you need. You need to see a stock reacting now on option flow. So if it could get back above the channel that it attempted to get back above today, this thing could really start a nice swing trade. So keep an eye on that. OPEN, all day today, folks. So all you guys that trade smaller cap stocks, all day today, they were pounding the weekly $4 calls. Something to definitely keep an eye on this thing. Again, not really my thing, but definitely a name you should keep an eye on in case you are trading smaller price names. One trade I had today was kind of odd, man. So we talked about letter U, right? We talked about letter U on the weekend update. So I even give you guys a price, $39. So I got long today off 39, right? I got off long 39. They started coming for the $40 weekly calls. Everything was going good, man. Everything was going good. I got down to half size into this last push into the 3970s. Next thing I know, I get stopped out, break even on the balance, and this thing just gets absolutely murdered. I like, for what reason? There's no news at all. It went literally from 3970s all the way down to 3740s before recovering. I don't know what the news was. I guess it was a win, right? I guess this was a win, but again, sometimes you trade random stocks, and sometimes you will get random results. Let me give you guys some ideas, right? Let me give you guys some other ideas for tomorrow's session. And again, the one thing I will kind of try to reiterate here, especially for newer traders that haven't traded an adult interval, okay? When everybody comes back, you'll start seeing more activity. You'll start seeing more volatility come into the market. Right now, when you have absolutely nobody there that's throwing around really, really gigantic money, you're going to get a lot of dead zones, right? So I've always said this for years. When the market rests, you rest. So going into tomorrow's session, although, and I'll give you guys some ideas for tomorrow, in that you go into tomorrow's session, you have to expect nothing, right? Because if you absolutely have no expectations, you'll have no disappointments. Okay, I come in every single day, like today, for example, I didn't like anything at the open. I literally said I didn't like anything at the open, right? So I traded Tesla today at the open, well, not at the open, at the opening range highs. I got stuffed. Lost $1.80. Then I bought Tesla back on the dip, and I'm up about, a little less than $4 on the dip, right? I traded letter U, I did okay with letter U. But the point is, I didn't expect anything out of today. I really did. I really didn't expect anything out of today because that's kind of the market is in. So my advice, especially for a newer trader for tomorrow, obviously have your game plan. Again, if you're trading with me, I'll see you in the webinar. We kind of know what we do here every single day. But if you're trading by yourself, have your plan, have your opinion, wait for that plan to confirm. If it doesn't confirm, guess what? You don't trade. That's the whole point, folks. Again, you don't try to sit down with a professional people for example, on a poker table with 9 other guys and try to bluff your way through the session. You might do it once, you might do it twice, but I promise you're not beating Phil Ivey with a 2-7 offsuit the majority of time. And that's kind of where we are right now in the market. We're in the 2-7 offsuit. Can we get some good cards? Sure. Everything kind of falls into our lap. We're professional traders. I don't care if you're trading for 3 minutes or 30 years. Your money is as green as everybody else's. So treat your money with respect. And so if you're getting a dead zone, treat it like a dead zone. If you're getting some premium tomorrow, hell, there's some great opportunities as well. So let's talk about them. Well, let's start off. We talked about Lyft. We talked about Tesla. Guys, look at Amazon, right? So Amazon had a big run, bounced off the 5-day moving average. We did see some 235, some 240s, not that short term of expiration, but short term enough. Keep an eye on this thing if it starts to bounce back tomorrow above today's range. Look at FIG. It's a recent IPO, right? It's a recent IPO that closed today on its lowest print for its IPO cycle. If this thing confirms if it confirms today's lows tomorrow, you could have the next leg down. Again, think circle, right? You guys remember that? When it broke its the IPO range, right? Got hit, CRWV, right? All these things have ranges, right? All these things have ranges. So look at FIG as well, right? Look at FIG. If this thing starts taking down today's channel, you might get a next move down. Look at this small one, BITF. Okay, usually I wouldn't talk about a stock like that, but nice looking chart. You got a massive expansion in a volume bar. That's what you look for. We saw a small buyer come in. I believe it was for the September $2 calls. Bit Farms. Your guess is as good as mine what that is. Don't care. But watch this thing. You got expanding volume. If it could get above today's range, maybe this thing can wake up as well. And watch Microsoft. In case there is more weakness, keep an eye on Microsoft. If it starts losing today's range, it could get down to this 510 area just because the market is a little bit tired and a little bit antsy for people to come back. And again, we're going to keep this in mind. The Qs now are 3 days in a row of lower highs, lower lows, and this is day 2 below the 5-day support. Guys, have a great weekend, everybody. Freudian slip. Have a great night, everybody. God bless. If you are coming aboard in the webinar tomorrow, I look forward to working with you. Have a great night, guys. See you tomorrow.